Hello, Grand Rising everybody. Finally our guest is available today. So we're just right about to hit the ball rolling. So he's a great educated African American who was born in America, but he quit the American dream to move to Kenya, and we're about to hear from him why he moved to Kenya. Yeah, so guys, when I grew up, we have this media that used to tell us of how America is the superpower, America is the dream country. I don't have anything against America, but I believe that there are other great continents and other great countries apart from all the hype that we were told about America. So myself, I wanted to be in America, and then 2016 I had the opportunity to travel to the US. And in 2019, I think that is the time that George Floyd was murdered. So that really changed my perspective about America. The major thing that really was of major concern is the gun violence, and mostly it happens to black men. And also the American culture is so busy, and when especially black families, they get there trying to raise their children, is very hard. So you find that the man works during the day, and then the wife at night, or the wife at night, the man during the day. So that family coordination is not there. So you find that with the time, the families start to fall out of love. The money is there, everything is there, so the women are empowered. They cannot be able to be the ones to cook for you anymore. The men have to be the ones to change the diapers. That is very different from our culture. So with the time, there comes a conflict, and then the black families suffer because that is not how we used to do our things. So most of the people that get to win the green card and go to America, unless they really know their background, they really understand themselves, they really love themselves, they really value the black family culture, they are able to stick together. But most, like maybe 40%, you find that they end up in divorce. The money is there, everything is there, but they end up in divorce. And then I saw one thing in America, that black dogs actually get better treatment than black men. I don't know how to explain that, but a black man could be shot by the police just because he ran through a traffic light, when I was there, George Floyd was murdered in broad daylight, and the reason he was murdered was because he gave a $20 bill in a supermarket that was fake, and they called police on him, and the police murdered him. So those things to me were very scary. And then also there were issues of school shooting, church shooting, supermarket shooting. You find that someone just is like, no, these black people, then he opens gunfire on them. There's an incident that happened in Texas where young children were just shot at because of the color of their skin. So racism is such a big deal in America. And to me, I was like, I don't want to bring my children in this country, and maybe after so many years, I don't know, maybe they're the ones to fall victim. So I was not comfortable. I just felt uncomfortable. And then I also had this powerful vision. I used to have this powerful vision about the unity of Africa. I used to see myself like this song that you guys, the ones who follow me on YouTube, if you've watched my song on birthday, that song, I had a very powerful vision, And then I was taken to somewhere, and I met this god of the black people. And then wherever I was, there was music, and the music was on top of the clouds, and then there were different colors. Like the piano, the music was sounding like the piano, but the clouds were dancing and changing in different colors. So I was asking God, what happened? Is it the end of the world? Then they said, no, it's not the end of the world, it's God's birthday. Then I said, oh my goodness, I've been wanting to have a new birthday song, because the song that we sing is so monotonous. We just learned it from other people. I want to have a song that is special, dedicated to black people, because the way we sing that birthday song, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, so it's just like playing like that, we don't. So I said, can you teach me a birthday song that can really talk to us people? So that's how I came up with in the morning when I woke up, I found myself singing, like they taught me that song. Then in the morning when they woke up, I found myself remembering the lines, like the lines go like this. We wish you a grand rising. We wish you prosperity. We wish you a happy solar return. We used to count our birthdays with the number of solar returns. And so it was such a beautiful thing for me. And so that's how I came up with hold on guys, let me call our guest so that he can join us. I already spoke to him. I'm expecting his call, but it's taking some time. So hold on, let me will I be able to call? And I'm using this phone, I don't know. Wait, how am I going to do this? I can invite him from here. Let me see. Hold on. So I have sent the invite. I hope you'll be able to see that and respond. Yeah, so I was like, I learned this song in this vision, and it was a special dedication to black people. I was excited. That day I woke up, I remembered the song, I took a book and a notebook, I wrote down the lines, and then when I moved back to Kenya, I moved because of this strong vision that I used to have about the unity of Africa. I used to love my grandmother so much, and that time she was ailing, and she was like, when Corona came, I was like, the way Corona is killing people, I don't want to die before I see my grandmother. And then my sons were missing me so much. I left them when they were very, very young, 3 years and 9 years. And I said, you know what? For the sake of my babies, I'm going to go back home. And, I thought that I was going to settle down and be a farmer in Kenya. Unfortunately, or fortunately, when I started my farming, I did 6 acres of maize and beans in a town in Kenya called Narok. But it flopped. Like, I did not plant at the right time. The rains were already gone, so I planted late, and so I had a huge loss. I decided to go into business. I opened a shop, but the business was low. I tried to look for a job. I didn't get a good job, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going, since I had stayed in Kenya for 2 years by the time, I had bonded with my kids and I had prepared them better, because now they were grown. They were able to understand that mommy loves us and she has to go there. It's not easy for them because I'm the only parents that they know. And so I prepared them, and I took them to boarding schools. I got in touch with their teachers, and then, I said, let me try to go to Europe, because here I can be able to get easy access to the internet. I can be able to, there's this thing about, like, if you're abroad, people listen to you better, because when I went to Kenya, I got like such a cold reception. People are like, how do you leave America? How do you, they did not understand my reasons, you know. But if I had my way, I have my kids with me in America. I have maybe support, you know, like over someone, like family support, of a husband, because really me, an African organic original woman. For real, for me, I respect all the people that um okay, he's talking to us. So ladies, let me reply him on WhatsApp to tell him to join. uh okay. All right, so expect him soon. Yeah, so because we all have different parts of life, we all have different journeys, and mine has been such a struggle. And you know, the American economy is so fast. Given my problem with my eyes, I can't really drive. Like, I can't drive because my vision is poor. And America requires you to be able to move first, you know. You have, at least you need to own a car, you need to have your things figured out. So I was like, no, since I'm a single mom, I can't drive, I can't bring my kids to this country. How will I be taking them to school? How will I be picking them up and all stuff like that? But I had come to Italy like 2014 before I went to America, because when I was in Kenya, I used to support a youth group that used to do music and acting and stuff like that. And so the guy that was in charge of that group, it was called Gipe, we got in touch with the Italian ambassador, and he told us of a program that actors come and meet in Italy, and they exchange ideas and learn from each other from different parts of the world. And in 2014, when we came, Kenya and South Africa were the only African countries in that gathering. But now that gathering happens every year, but now it has been able to go to different parts of Africa, because we wrote an MOU with the people that they should allow more Africans to come and learn, because it was a very nice program where you travel to different parts of Italy, and then you take films, and then you act, and you're given awards, and you can get a contract if you're doing your acting is good and stuff like that. So yeah, that event happens like every year, and it's been ongoing. I think it's only with Corona that they stopped, but I think now they are still ongoing with the project. Yeah, so that's how I came to Italy. So I came, I participated for like, the event happens 3 months, but since I was working at that time in Kenya, I came and participated for like a month, and then I went back home. But Italy is a beautiful country. Italians are racist, yes, but the gun violence is not so much in Italy. And then one thing that surprised me is that Italians don't speak English. Very few of them, the younger people, but most of the Italians, they don't speak English. But it's a very, very beautiful country. So you guys, my friends who are in US, if you want to take vacation for next year, start planning to come to Italy. I'll show you around. It's very beautiful by there. You'll like it. Yeah, and the climate is not so bad. It's not so cold. Me, I fear cold. When I was in US, my bones used to freeze. Like, I would dress warm, 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 yes, but still I would, like, I had a problem with my foot. Okay, our guest is here, so let's give him this time to talk, as we are always available, so we'll talk another time. So let me welcome him. Mm. I hope the network is okay. Okay. The network is not allowing me to add him, but let me try again. All right, we're
Hi.
good. Hi, Mr. Timothy. How are
Hi.
you?
How are you?
Okay, I'm fine.
That's good.
Thank you for joining us. Thanks for your time.
Not a
We've been
problem at
waiting
all.
for you eagerly.
I was kind of waiting for you to hit me up, but I didn't realize I had to go to Facebook and join. But anyway, I'm here.
Thank you very much. So please, can you tell us about yourself, your name, what you do, where you live?
Okay. Okay, I'm originally from the U.S., from Virginia, born and raised. Uh, I have no family here. I'm just an adventurous person like that.
Where is
Um,
here? You said here. Where is
I am
here?
in
Where are you?
Mombasa, Kenya. Mombasa, Kenya. So I've been here
All right.
for, actually, I've been in Kenya for like 6 years, but I lived in Nairobi for 2 years, and I've been in Mombasa for 4 years. So I like Mombasa a lot better because of the climate, because of the water. You know, I'm from Virginia, so we're on in Virginia Beach. We're close to the ocean, so it's vibrant being around the
You
water.
feel at home.
Uh, yes, definitely. And then the atmosphere is very, very vibrant here. And so I like it here. You know what I'm saying? Plus the proximity to surrounding places. I travel a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I use this as my hub to travel from. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So anyway, uh, I've lived most of my life in the U.S. About 5 years ago, I was working and I questioned myself. I'm like, okay, you got money in the bank. Why are you working just to pay bills? And so at that point, I decided to pull a plug, come back to Mombasa. My first trip to Mombasa was
Why Kenya? Why not Italy? Why not anywhere else? Why Africa? Why Kenya?
because, first of all, I've always had an attachment to Africa. I mean, I guess is written in me. My family is the same way. We have an unexplainable attachment to Africa. My sisters, my brothers, we've always been into African art, African history. It's just part of us. And so it's just that thirst for knowledge is what has driven me here. I'm studying Egyptology, working on a PhD, and being here in Africa, in Kenya, allows me to uh, compare or parallel the things that I've seen in ancient Kemet to what I've seen on the interior of Africa, because Kemet is just the mouthpiece of the interior of Africa. So I see a lot of parallels as I travel around. And so I'm trying to put it all together, combined with my school and everything. I'm an author, and so like I was telling you earlier, I'm planning on traveling to all 54 countries in Africa, and afterwards, I want to write a second book. So my whole purpose is to try to wake my people up. I'm a Pan African, but what I
Okay.
understand is that everything started here in
Yes.
Africa, and more so around the Great Lakes region where I'm presently at. I mean, we're more on the coastal side, but around Lake
Yes.
Victoria, or as the natives call it, Lake Lodway or Lake Nyanza. That's
Yes.
pretty much the source of ancient Kemet. And so the people in ancient Kemet, they look back to that area as the home of their ancestors. And so they themselves wrote that down. The
Yes.
sad part about it is that most Africans don't identify with Egypt, because when they see Egypt, they see foreigners, they see um, uh,
Arabs.
they see conquerors and
Yes.
invaders. That's who they are. Those are not the original people. The people who built the
Yes.
pyramids, and those were African people who
Yes.
lived up and down the Nile River. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? But this right here is the source, which is why
Yes.
I'm here. So my bloodline is
Okay.
Nigerian and Cameroon. I haven't even been to West Africa yet, but I wanted to
Oh,
come and
wow.
start from the source. This is the source
Okay.
of all
Yes.
human beings.
Yeah,
Even
you're
West
right.
Africans, they originated from here.
They came from
So
Kenya, yeah.
it was appropriate that I start here. You know what I'm saying? So
Okay, I
now,
just want you to, you mentioned that you're an author. I just want you to mention your book and how people can get it. And then after you do that, most Kenyans do not really know that Kenya was the beginning of all human life.
Right.
Maybe you can expound more on that so that they can learn about
Okay.
both your book
Our book
first
is
and in
available
Kenya.
on Amazon. My book is available on Amazon. The title is a look kind of long, but if you go to Amazon and click on the books tab, and the name of the book is When My Heart Stops Beating, My Words Will Forever Breathe It. So if you type that in
Wow.
and scroll down, you should see my book pop up. I'm
Oh,
selling the book for about 24 US dollars. And I think it can be shipped to most worldwide locations.
yeah. I checked
The
it
book
and
sells it.
it can be shipped to Italy. I checked yesterday.
Say again?
I checked yesterday and they can ship it to Italy. So I think it can
Yes,
be shipped anywhere.
yes, yes, definitely. They can ship it to most places worldwide.
Okay.
Um, and so what was the other question you were asking?
The question is about Kenya because my
Oh,
Kenyan people, they do not
yes,
know like Kenya was the
right,
beginning of all human life.
yes,
Like, can you at least
right.
teach us a little bit on that?
Well, not just Kenya. It's like, when they had that conference in the Berlin conference in 18, I forget exactly when it was, 1860s, 1880s. That's when they divided Africa up between all European nations. So at that
Okay.
time, they was like, okay, you claim this, I'm going to claim that. And that's how everything became split up. But before that, the people were one, even though they may have spoke
Ab-
different languages, just like in Kenya, you guys have what, 42 tribes? And each tribe has
45.
their own language. You know what I'm saying? It was the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
way back then, but they considered themselves brothers and sisters. Now that Europeans have divided those the geographic areas up, they don't look at each other that way. Tanzanians are
Yeah.
Tanzanians, Ugandans are Ugandans, Kenyans are Kenyans, Ethiopians are Ethiopians. But this
Yeah.
area right here, they found some of the oldest human fossils. And so there's
Okay.
been 5 different species of man. You have 2 forms of Australopithecus, then you have Homo habilis, and then you had Homo
Mm-hmm.
erectus. Homo erectus was the species that left Africa. The other species
Okay.
never left Africa. That's why they know that uh,
Home. Ah,
this is the original birthplace of man. You're not going to find
oh, okay.
species before Homo erectus anywhere else in the
Mm.
world. And so with
Oh,
Homo erectus, that's when we left Africa and started populating the rest of the world. And depending on what
okay.
geographical area you moved to or lived in, that determined your physical characteristics, your skin color, your hair color,
Yeah.
the texture of your hair, your height, all of that is affected by geography. And it's just
Okay.
mutation. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so like I've been to Ethiopia many times. I've lived in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And they have I'm not sure if Lucy, they call it Dinkanesh in Ethiopia. If she's
Yeah.
Homo erectus or Australopithecus, I forget which one, but I know the fossils are like 3.4 million years old. And what
Wow.
scientists have been able to do is um, every person on the face of the earth, their DNA can be traced back to her. So
Wow.
that proves that humanity started in Africa.
In
And
Africa,
so
you're right.
Ethiopia is right above Kenya. You guys are, this is
Mm.
the same area, but the Great Rift
Yeah.
Valley, which runs through Nakuru and all of that, that's where
Yeah.
they're finding all of these fossils. And the Great Rift Valley runs all the way through Ethiopia too.
Yeah.
And because of that, um, this is where a lot of focus has been placed in
Yeah.
Kenya. But most people are focusing more of their research in Ethiopia because
Yeah.
Ethiopia, I guess, because of it, it rains a lot down here. And so it's hard to preserve a lot of fossils and stuff like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a place in Ethiopia where they've been finding a lot of fossils. But now the focus is
Wow.
beginning to come down here. And so a lot of
Okay.
people don't know, just last year, uh, in Diani. Diani is like
Mm-hmm.
what for is it Kalifi or I think it's the no Kalifi. In Kalifi, which is about 45 minutes from Mombasa up the coast,
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
found a toddler about 2 years old, wrapped in cloth. with the pillow under his head, and his head was facing the east. And it's carbon
Mm-hmm.
dated 70,000 years ago, just to let
Wow.
you know how long we've been around. And so when you look
Yeah.
at the civilization of ancient Kemet, um, ancient Kemet began in 3,100. The civilization began in 3,100 BC, which is about 5,000 or so years ago.
Mm-hmm.
However, when Egypt unified as a nation, the culture had been around for thousands of years. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So a
Yeah.
lot of people think that Kemet is the beginning. Kemet is not the beginning by far. Kenya I mean, Kemet is relatively a baby compared
Yeah.
to the age of Africa itself. You know what I'm
Wow.
saying? And then the oldest
Yeah.
fossil that they've been able to find was in Chad, and that's carbon dated to
Yeah.
300,000 years ago. You know what
Wow.
I'm saying? And so what we have to realize is that uh, Europeans are the latest advents on the earth. There's been
Mm-hmm.
5 ice ages. The last
Yeah.
ice age started about 40,000 years ago, and it
Mm-hmm.
lasted up until about 10,000 years ago. And that's when the ices started to melt.
Mm-hmm.
During the ice age is when Europeans came into existence. So
Mm-hmm.
if we've been around for at least 300,000 years, and that's being conservative, that's just
Yeah.
based on the fossils that they found. But if they found,
Yeah.
and the fossil that they found was Homo sapien, which has the same capacity that we have right now, anatomically
Yeah.
speaking, mentally speaking, whatever. So
Yeah.
it goes much back further than that. We just haven't found the fossils.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that and realize that Europeans started around 40,000 years ago, that means that Africans had been on the planet
Yeah.
260,000 years
Yeah.
before
Before
Europeans
European.
were ever thought. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so Europeans, not only Europeans, but Chinese and other people of the world, they
Arabs.
came long after
Mm-hmm.
us. And
Indians.
so
Mm-hmm.
Europeans are no more than Grimaldi Africans, which are the type of Africans who migrated north to the northern latitudes. They populated
Mm-hmm.
the north, and they got caught in the ice age, and thus they developed the
Change
characteristics
their
that they
body.
have now. And so this is the
Okay.
product. So Europeans are Africans, are mutated Africans. But in the process of
Mm-hmm.
mutating, they lost their melanin, right? And
Yeah.
melanin is what gives us our connection
The
with the
hair.
spiritual world,
Mm-hmm.
with the spiritual world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that explains why Europeans don't have rhythm. They don't have no flavor. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this
Yeah.
is fact, man. I mean, it's not trying to bash them, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. It's why
So
the mentality they have. They don't have no conscience because they're from a
yeah.
cold climate where nothing grows, and in order for them to survive, they got to kill, they got to steal.
Yeah.
They can't put a
Yeah.
seed in the ground and bananas and coconuts and what we have here in Africa on the equator.
Yeah.
It grows naturally.
Yeah.
So their
Yeah.
whole
Yeah. Yeah.
time was preoccupied with survival.
With
Whereas in
survival. So
Africa,
they have to
our
eliminate other people to
yes,
survive.
and to survive.
So
Whereas
what
in
can
Africa,
you
go ahead,
yeah. What
go
can you
ahead.
tell us about some of our sisters and brothers who bleach? What can you say about that? Because you say something about melanin that help
Yes,
us get our complexion and help us to be
yes.
fruitful. So, what do you say about those of us who bleach to look like them?
Okay. When Africans bleach, that's an attempt to them to be embraced by European society. Europeans, they control the world for the most. They control 85% of the world, even though they make up only 12 to 14% of the world's population. And so, because they're the dominant class, then every
We lost my guest. So, guys, you can put your questions there. We'll try to add him back again. Maybe after the broadcast, he's going to answer. But he's a PhD. Okay. Thank you. Welcome back. I
I'm
lost
back.
you.
I don't know what happened. But anyway, when Africans or black people bleach their skin, it's an attempt to them of being accepted into European society. And so I see that a lot here in Kenya. It happens a
Yeah.
lot in Nigeria too. It's just them
Yeah.
trying to be accepted into European culture and society. But what they don't
Yeah.
realize is that doesn't change anything. Matter of fact, being
Yeah.
melanated is a blessing, you
It's
know.
a
And so we
blessing.
had a conversation before, I think it was yesterday, and I was telling you that the pineal gland is what produces melanin. And
Yeah.
during the Vietnamese War in the 60s, in Delaware, they were sending all of the bodies back to Delaware. And they were doing autopsies on the bodies. And what they found out is that Europeans' pineal gland, they were all calcified, right? Whereas
Wow.
black people's pineal gland is still plump like a grape. And so
Yeah.
they did further study and they found out by the age of 16, Europeans' pineal gland has been calcified. And that
Yeah.
explains a lot. You know what I'm saying? And our
Yeah.
babies are born with rhythm. You know what I'm saying? When our babies are born, they beat their head
They
to the
can
beat.
dance.
But
Yeah.
Europeans, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying, they can try and try and try. They just don't get it. And this is all
Yeah.
about being in tune with the frequencies of the
Of
universe.
the universe. You're
Everything is
right.
broken down into frequency. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and then our five senses are just receptors to allow us to interpret those things living on an earthly plane. You know what I'm saying? So the ancient
So,
people, go ahead.
all right. I just want to stop that there and
Okay.
then ask another question.
Okay.
Okay, so like we have this media portraying America as the garden of, they say it's the land of milk and honey. But personally, when I went to America, I discovered that Africa is actually the land of milk and honey. So, you know that the media is used to give us a different perspective of the true realities of
Yes.
life. So I want to ask you, what can you tell to our brothers and sisters who sell their land in Africa so that they can raise money to pay maybe for the ticket to go to America? It's not a bad thing, but for me, what I encourage my brothers and sisters to do, if at all you do that, then don't go to America to be a slave. Go to America, look for an opportunity to
Yes.
own something, to produce something, not
Yes.
to go and look for a job and then work the
Definitely.
rest of your life in that job.
Exactly.
Be a creator, invent something,
Yes.
go there and see what they have, take it back home and help our
Yes.
people with it. Open companies and then open other branches like that, like that. So I
Right.
don't know, like, what would you advise our African brothers who go to America? Then from there, I'll ask another
Okay.
question.
My advice, okay, first of all, when it comes to a US, in my opinion, I mean the United States gives people more opportunity than any other
Yeah,
place. Reason is you can go there with an idea or a concept, and if you're willing to put the work in, you can grow as far as you want to grow. When you come here in
yeah,
Africa, there's not so much opportunity because of the
yeah.
economy and because of corruption. You know what I'm saying? But in
Corruption.
the United
Yeah,
States, you know, African Americans, we only make up 12% of the population, but yet we are highly influential. Our culture is influential worldwide. And a lot of
yeah,
people don't realize that African Americans, we come up with more patents than any other people in the United States. So
you're
we,
right.
like as slaves, when we were slaves, most of the inventions that we use today, air conditioning, refrigerators, all of that stuff, black people invented that stuff. They just
Invented.
took the
You're
credit
right.
away from us and they claimed it
Yeah,
because we were their
yeah,
property.
because you are answerable
Yes.
to them.
So we are the innovators. We are still the innovators, but to the world, we just don't get no credit. They depict us as being gangbangers and drug dealers, and
Yeah,
but it's not like that, man. You know what I'm saying? The
yeah,
Europeans
yeah,
and Jews control the media, so they depict what
yeah.
they want the world to see.
They want.
But
You're
getting
right.
back to your question, my advice would be to come to the U.S., make your money, find your niche, and find a way to build your own business. Because as long
Yeah,
as you're working for someone else, you'll never become financially independent. You're always going to
yeah,
work to make the person that you're working for richer. And
yeah,
African people are much, much more intelligent than Europeans.
yeah.
They learn from
It's
us.
true.
Everything
Look
that
at
they
how we
know,
can master different
yes,
languages.
we've just been conditioned to believe that we are less than them because they
Yeah,
control information and they
yeah,
control what people believe about us. Darwin had this theory about evolution where we started from monkeys and apes and all of that. That is so far from the truth. And so
yeah.
we've
Because
been
by
taught to
now the
believe.
monkeys that exist should have evolved as well.
Exactly. So that is crazy. Whatever. So my thing is, like in my book, I said, question everything. God
Yeah,
gave you a mind to use. He gave you a
yeah,
mind for a reason. You don't have to
yeah.
wait. You don't even have to listen to experts. You can do your own research. And through the
Gosh, you're
process
right.
of elimination and the process of comparison, you can come up with
Yeah,
your own uh I don't even like to use the word belief. I don't even use that word. Either I know or I don't know.
knowledge.
But you can
Yeah,
come
yeah,
up with a rational conclusion. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? You can look at different researchers, black, white, whoever, look at their research and then put it all together and come up with your own conclusion. That's what we need to start
yeah.
doing. We depend
Okay.
on Europeans too much to teach us, which is why
Yeah.
I'm studying Egyptology or chematology so that I can read the writings on the
Congratulations.
wall myself and interpret what
Yeah,
our
congrats.
ancestors left for us. Europeans are
Yeah,
never going to tell us
congratulations.
the truth.
Yeah, I'm
So
so proud of you because you said you're in PhD already.
yeah, I'm
Wow.
working on a PhD. And it's not about
Wow.
the money. I'm not doing it for the money, man. I'm doing it because I want to wake my people up. And I want to be one of
Okay.
those, most of our scholars in the US are old, man. They're in their late 60s and 70s and
Yeah,
stuff. They're not going to be around too much longer. So I want to
yeah,
be
yeah.
one of those people to pick up so that they can pass the
The
baton
mantle.
to. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I've been blessed where I can travel the world. And so I don't like most people back in the day, they were going to Virgin Islands and Florida and Cancun and all of the resorts. I'm not interested in that stuff. I want to go to the
Yeah.
source. I want like last week I went up to Magori up in next to
Mm-hmm.
Kisumu. They've got pyramids
Yeah,
in,
I
in
saw
Kenya.
the pyramids in Migori that you shared.
And the irony of it is uh people don't realize the connection that they have to ancient Kemet. And what was
Yeah,
amazing to me is that the fact that they built the pyramids almost exactly the way the pyramids in Sudan were built without having
yeah,
knowledge, in-depth knowledge, shows that there's a connection and that connection
yeah,
started from up here. A lot of people say down here because when you say south, it normally goes down, but the Nile flows from south to north. So
yeah,
this is
yeah,
highlands, and the highlands flow down north, not down south.
yeah,
It flows down north.
yeah,
And so this is where
yeah,
everything started. And also
yeah,
South Africa too. South Africa has a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
to
yeah.
play. I plan on going to South Africa probably in April or May of next year,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to start
Yeah,
a YouTube channel, YouTube station where
yeah, you need
I'm
to.
recording all of my travels and I can educate people.
Yeah, you
You
need
know what
to
I'm
do
saying? And
that.
and I go
Yeah.
into the bush. I'm an ex-commando, so I've been to some of the worst terrains in the world, deserts, jungles, you name it. So
Wow.
it's conditioned me to do the things that I'm doing now. Most Americans don't
Wow.
want to leave the comforts of America to come to
Their
Africa, but
comfort.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
here. And you know what I'm saying?
Okay,
And
that
I'm
takes
here.
me to the next question.
Okay.
That takes me to the next question. What can you say to our Africans from Africa and the kind of relationship they have once they get to America with the African Americans? Because when I was there, I saw that still the divide and rule is still among us. We cannot relate and we cannot see ourselves as brothers
Right.
and sisters. So what can you tell, like what can be done to bridge that gap?
Okay. Um, I was married to an Ethiopian. We divorced now. Married her in
Mhm.
Ethiopia, took her to the
Wow,
US. You know what I'm saying? I
wow.
mean, it was a
Yeah,
little bit of culture shock coming from Ethiopia. Their infrastructure
yeah,
is not even close to Kenya. And
yeah,
so when I took her to the States, man, she told me during her orientation, they
yeah,
show them films and stuff. They show them uh, depictions of different types of people in
yeah,
America. And they
yeah.
tell them to stay away from us. And then they show
It's
them
true.
depictions of us selling drugs, guns, crime. and it creates images in your head to keep us
And it's
away from each
false.
other. And that's
And
by
it's a false
design.
image.
It's
Yeah.
by design. We are not
Yeah.
who they depict us as. Of course,
Yeah.
there's crime everywhere. You've got crime in
Yeah.
Kenya, you've got crime in Europe,
That's
but if the media
exactly.
focuses on that, it's going to paint a picture in the people's minds that we are bad people. We're not like that. Of course, if you wherever there's poverty, there's crime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we have our share of
Yeah.
crime just like anywhere else. But if you look at the
But
statistics,
but even the
we only
even
commit a
even the
fraction of it.
Europeans
Huh?
even the Europeans have a major problem with gun violence,
I
and
know.
they don't show it that on media.
Well, that's what I was saying. If you look at the statistics, white people are creating involved in much more crime than we are.
Exactly.
And when you look at
Yeah.
the prison population, blacks and Hispanics make up 85% of the United States prison population. Yet we make up 12% of the U.S. population in general. How can that be?
Mhm.
It can't be.
Well,
It's
Boston.
because they target us. And so
Yeah.
we are victims of slavery. And
Yeah.
that ideology still uh, transcends and it still exists. And they want to keep us oppressed and keep us down because they know that if we ever come together as a people, it's over. And so it's happening right now. And so
Yeah.
to answer your question, when Africans come to the United States, don't be afraid to interact with us. Because when
Mm-hmm.
it's like when I come to Africa, right, in Kenya, because
Yeah.
of poverty, people think we rich. They think they don't care about your color. They just know you're
Yeah.
American and you're supposed to have money. And a lot of
Yeah.
times they try to take advantage of us. They try to use us because they don't know any better. But when you come to the United States, we embrace all people of color. If you
You're
come from
right.
Africa, we don't care what country you come from. We try to embrace you, man. We try to keep you, we try to educate you on the system, the cops,
Yeah.
the political
Yeah.
system and everything. But because Europeans or the powers that be try to keep us separated, you guys are too afraid to approach us. Ethiopians come to the States and they rub shoulders with white people. Their friends are
Yeah.
white. They don't interact with us.
Yeah. With black.
Ethiopians, I call you Ethiopians the sellouts of Africa because they've
Mm-hmm.
been conditioned, man, to they don't even associate with Kenyans, and you guys live next door to them.
No, they don't.
They don't associate with nobody else because they think that their ties with Sheba and Solomon and Menelik and all of that, which is all of that is not, there is no proof that any of those figures ever lived. And so they're
Yeah.
more aligned to the Catholic Church than they are to, and the sad part about it is that the Ethiopians were highly
Yeah.
instrumental in the concepts that were pervasive in Kemet, but they have lost that
Yeah.
connection altogether.
Yeah.
And it's because of,
Yeah.
even though Ethiopia is the only country in Africa who's never been colonized, it's
Colonized.
not because
Yeah.
they're smarter, in which they think. It's not because their army is so much better, even though they have one of the top three militaries in Africa. It's because of the
Mhm.
terrain. And so when invaders
Ah.
come to their coastline, their
Yeah.
coastline is all mountainous. I've flown over
Yes.
Ethiopia many, many times. And in order
Wow.
for you to attack somebody, you have to first get to them. And so the terrain is a deterrent. But here in
Yeah.
Kenya, you come in on the coast, Mombasa is flat. You can come straight
Yeah.
in and do
Right.
what you got to do. So they don't look at
Yeah.
that. And so they have an
Yeah.
arrogance about a false sense of arrogance. And
Mm-hmm.
they think that they're better than other black people. But like I
Mm-hmm.
said, the media is designed. You got to realize that the Jews, what's going on with Kanye West, I don't agree with everything that he says. But one thing I got to
Yeah.
give him props for is he's not afraid to stand up against the power structure.
For the
And the
truth.
power
Yeah.
structure
Yeah.
are the Jews. Europeans,
Yeah.
white Americans don't control shit, excuse my language, in the world. Jews
Mm-hmm.
control everything. They control the media. They control
Yeah.
finance. They control the world
Yeah.
banks. They control the oil industry, the diamond industry. They control the entertainment business. They control
Yeah.
everything. So at the end of the day, if you say anything against Jews, they're going to call you
Yeah.
anti-Semitic. And once you're
Yeah.
labeled as an anti-Semitic, they pretty much
They
snatch
set the
snatch the rug
enemy.
from under your feet. And because
Yeah.
you don't have, they own all of the social media platforms, Facebook,
Yeah.
they own
Yeah.
all of that. So all they got to do is make a phone call to their fellow Jews and say, cut this brother off. You done.
Yeah.
That's why we
Yeah.
have to empower ourselves where we don't have to
Exactly.
depend on their platforms. We need to become
Exactly.
manufacturers. We need to become
Yeah.
creators and stop being what do you call it? Consumers. We
Consumers.
consume too
Yeah.
much. But the thing is,
Yeah.
they're making money off of our innovation.
Or
The
consumerism.
Jews make money off of us. It's just like when you go to the Congo, they have all the natural resources, yet they don't manufacture anything. They sell everything
Yeah.
rough. And then the
Yeah.
Europeans process it and make the money off of it. That's got to change.
Yeah.
When you go to West Africa, I don't know what country it is, Ghana, whichever country that produces cocoa, they don't
Yeah.
have no
It's
manufacturing
Ghana.
places.
Ghana.
Ghana, yeah, it's Ghana. They sell the cocoa beans and let the Europeans process it and make all the money. That's got to change,
Yeah.
man. Africa has the ability to be
Yeah.
100% self-reliant. But
Yeah.
because of corruption, the leaders are so corrupt and greedy that they don't focus
Yeah.
on the infrastructure, they focus on themselves. And until that
Yeah.
changes, man, Africa is not going to grow. You know
It's
what I'm saying?
true.
And then all corruption is only learned behavior from
Yeah.
uh, colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Like here in Kenya,
Mm-hmm.
the British came in, they set up shop, they set up the government. When the Mau Mau kicked them out, Kenyans replaced the Europeans, and all they did is institute what they've learned from Europeans. That's what
Mm-hmm.
corruption is. It's learned
Yeah.
behavior. It's all
Yeah.
about greed, power, and selfishness. That's what it
Yeah.
is. But
Mm-hmm.
America, um, if 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 Africans can get to America and take advantage of the opportunities, put in hard work, and you gotta work for somebody else until you get to the
Yeah.
point where you learn how the business goes and what you
On
have to do in
yourself.
order to start your own.
Yeah.
But don't
Yeah.
go over there looking to work
To
for
work
someone
forever.
the rest of your
Yeah.
life. Try to find a
Mm-hmm.
way to start your own in
Your
whatever
own.
endeavor you want to pursue. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's highly
Exactly.
possible.
Yeah.
We just been
Okay.
conditioned to
So
work for other people. Go ahead.
yeah. So I want to ask my next question.
Okay.
Since the media has been showing your own black brothers and sisters, the African Americans, that Africa is dangerous and you cannot go there, you
Right.
cannot afford to travel there, you can't just even think about it. So what can you
Right.
say to them to encourage them to come over and just see for themselves?
Africa is the essence of Africa is what I'm here for. Um, in the United States, I don't ever remember seeing a skyline. They always show you the bush. They go out to the Maasai and show you the Maasai mixing blood with milk, living in huts. And they go to Ethiopia and show you the kids with the big swollen heads and the eyes sunk back in your head and the flies, and they do that intentionally. There's
Yeah,
places in Africa like Mombasa is beautiful, man. Um,
yeah,
Kenya, Nairobi is a huge, thriving city. I have
yeah,
never
yeah.
seen that skyline on TV. So they
Wow.
paint images that they want to depict Africa as being
Yeah,
substandard. And that's the
yeah,
images that are painted in our head. And I say this all the
yeah.
time. When they show you depictions of us, it's always drug dealers
I
and
get you.
committing crimes and living in the ghettos and but they don't never show you the successful black people the same
Yeah,
way that they do to us. The whole purpose is to keep us divided. And as
divided.
long as they can keep us divided, they can stay in control. But we're living in the age of information now. And so with the
Yeah,
advent of the internet, all you got to do is
yeah,
type and you can learn anything. And
yeah.
people that study population statistics have determined that within the next 10 years, next 20 years, Africa will have the largest middle income population. And so Africa, like they said, Africa has the shortest and the tallest, the dumbest and the
Yeah.
smartest, the lightest and the dark. They have the extremes of both
The
ends.
extreme.
We've just
Yeah,
got to find our place. And we
yeah,
need to take back what rightfully belonged to ours. Because without us, Europeans wouldn't be nothing. Trust me when I tell you. When you look at the
Yeah.
population of black people around the globe, uh,
Yeah.
Chinese, they've got like 1.4 billion people. India is right neck and neck with China, but we're right there with them. But it's just that we've been dispersed. And so that's
Yeah.
what they don't want to let happen. They do not want us to come together as a people
United.
because when we
Yeah.
do, it's a wrap and they know it. But right now, they can't stop it. Everything
Hmm.
and everything happens in cycles. A lot of people think
Yeah.
everything happens in linear fashion. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen that way. It's up and down. So we're coming back from the descent on the rise back up. And so we're living in that day. And
Yeah.
black people are making advances, man, and I can see it. I've been coming to Kenya, to Africa for the past 12 years, and I have seen the growth myself.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable. They can't stop it, man. It's the universe
Lovely.
is created by design, and no matter what Europeans do, they can't stop what's getting ready to come. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
We just got to
Okay.
stop trying to be like them, man, because like you said, they are from us. So we are the
Yes.
mother of them. So it's not, do
Yeah.
you learn from your children or do your children
Your
learn from
children
you?
learn from you.
There you go,
Yeah.
man. We need to flip the script and stop trying to
Yeah.
replicate them and be like them and be who we are because our potential is much, much greater than them. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We've
So
been, we've
my
been,
last question is
go ahead.
my last question is going to be, what can you say about our spirituality and what can you say about religion? Because for me, I used to be a staunch Christian. I used to preach, sing music and stuff. But when I was in America, I saw how they celebrate Halloween, yet they discourage us from celebrating our dead.
Yeah,
I saw how they look down upon, black
right.
men and all these things. And I started to question Christianity and the people that brought it to Africa. And then I went back to Africa. I have this book here. Uh,
Okay.
this is written by my community elders, and they are
Okay.
explaining how we used to live our life, how we used to pray to the Most High, and things
Right.
like that. So I decided to go back to how I pray. But when I talk about that, people feel as though I'm denying the existence of God. They don't connect the existence of God with our African spirituality. They only understand God in
Right.
terms of religion. So, what can you say about that?
First of all, religion is an attempt to explain spirituality. All religions. And if you look at all the religions, they were all created by Europeans. All of them. Judaism, Christianity, uh, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Shintoism, all of that stuff. Like the Oriental people, they are products of Europeans. The Muslims are products, they're from the European family. So all of those
Yeah,
religions, I can show you the name of the person who created it. Spirituality is your natural relationship with the laws
with
and
the Most
forces and
High.
principles of the universe. And so when you breathe in oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide, that's spirituality. We
Yeah,
coexist with the forces of nature. And our ancient
yeah,
ancestors understood this. And so,
yeah,
like I always say, Kaba Kamani, he's a world-renowned African scholar. He's not an Egyptologist, but he's highly versed in Egyptology. He said that
yeah,
science and spirituality are two sides
yeah.
of the same coin. Science is seen spirituality, where spirituality is unseen science. They both
Wow.
exist. One is visible,
Mhm.
one is not visible, but
Now,
they are
yeah,
just as valid on both sides.
together.
So we are made of atoms. You cannot see atoms. We
Yeah,
we use electricity every day. We use the
cannot
internet
see.
every day. You cannot see the energy that makes that
You're right.
information go from one point to another, but we know it
You're
exists.
right.
And it's all
Mm-hmm.
based on frequency. Even
Yeah,
everything is broken down into frequency. Everything seen and unseen is frequency. That is the
yeah,
language of the universe. And so
yes,
what we have to understand, and then another thing is the word God is a recent advent. Our ancient
yeah,
ancestors didn't use the word God. They used netter,
yes.
which is the
You're
origin
right.
of the word nature. Netter and
Yeah.
netteru are the laws and principles of the universe. And so
Mm-hmm.
what our ancestors did was they personified those forces, and Europeans have taught us that we worshiped what do you
Sun.
call it? Um, Idols and stuff like that. That's not the case at
Yeah.
all. That is how they communicated. So they took
Yeah.
the characteristics of an animal and put on a human body
Yeah.
to communicate the characteristics of that animal within man. We didn't
Yeah.
worship those things. Those were just
Yeah.
personifications of the
Representatives.
forces of nature. And so the
Yeah.
word God was not created until the 700s. God is
Yeah.
a derivative of a German word. Before
Yeah.
that, when the word God was created, Egypt had fallen 1,000 years, and the
Mm-hmm.
civilization of Egypt lasted around 4,000 years. And so
Yeah.
the people that came into Kemet, the people that live in present day Israel, Jordan, they call it the Levant area. That's where
Mm-hmm.
all of the religious doctrine was created. Um,
Yeah.
Judaism, Christianity, all of that doctrine was created there. And if you can walk from Israel to Egypt in 9 hours,
Yeah.
that's how close it is.
Yeah.
And so the
You
people in
can
ancient,
walk.
you can walk to Israel in
Wow.
9 hours from Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
So the people like in Israel and Jordan and those places, those were outposts of the ancient
Yeah.
Kemetu. That's where they went to
Yeah.
get their papyrus for making paper. That's where they went to get their temple from Lebanon for making their ships.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
eventually over time, those people ended up coming down to Egypt and they began to settle in like the what do they call it? The part that flows out into the Mediterranean. They call it I can't think of the name of it, but there's a bunch of rivers that spread out at the end of the
Yeah.
Nile. That's where the people set up at, and they came from the
Yeah.
Levant area. Those are the people that call themselves Jews. The original
Yeah.
Jews were black people, but they were people who came to Kemet, who brushed shoulders with the knowledge of ancient Kemet, and from that they
Yeah.
created their own version. Thus, it
Yeah.
became Judaism. And then the people that call themselves the Jews today are not the original Jews. They're called
Yeah.
Ashkenazi Jews, who migrated
Mm-hmm.
from Europe, the southern part of Russia. They came into
Yeah.
Israel and they claimed the title of Jews.
Yeah.
Those are the people that run the world today. Those are not the
Yeah.
original people. The original Hebrews and Jews were
Or black
black people
people.
who came into Egypt, who learned and studied their ways and their culture and their belief system and created their own.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so our religions can be tied back to ancient Kemet in some shape, fashion, or form. Even the Ten Commandments are
Yeah. From the
extract
true laws of
of the original. Yeah, they call it the 42 negative confessions. They call it the laws of Ma'at, but there were 42. In religion, they borrow or plagiarize 10 of them and put them in the Bible. And another thing is all of the stories in the Bible, to include the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran, were all copied from the walls and
Yeah.
temples and tombs of ancient Kemet. All of them. I've been to Egypt several times, and I've been to the Valley of
Mm.
the King. And when you go inside the tombs, they've got Medu Neter, otherwise known as hieroglyphics, carved on the walls. Those
Yeah.
stories in the Bible were taken directly from the walls and put in the Bible, and they painted everything white and created their own
Yeah.
religion. So
Yeah.
Oswald Kwesi is another scholar. He said that if you want to know the origin of a river, you have to go back to where it starts.
To the source.
Everything starts in Africa. And
Yeah.
even though Kemet is not the beginning, they are the mouthpiece. That's why they recorded. They knew they were smart. They carved
Mm-hmm.
everything in stone because they knew
In
that that's the
stone.
only
Yeah.
thing that would last for eternity. They had learned from
Yeah.
experience. At first, they were putting everything on papyrus and carving stuff into wood. But here in Africa, you guys have rainy seasons and things rot
Yeah.
and be wilted, whatever. And so they got smart and carved it in stone. But not many of us know how to read Medu Neter. We depend
Yeah.
on Europeans to teach us everything. And that's another thing. If you go to Egypt, every European nation is represented in Egypt. They're digging. Germany,
Yeah.
Spain, Britain, all of them. They are digging.
Yeah.
Even Italians, they're digging because they
Yeah.
know that is where the knowledge is. That's
Yeah.
how come they're not digging in Europe? Because nothing is there.
I
They're
know. I
digging in
know.
Kemet because that is where the knowledge is. And when they come upon new information, they will disseminate it to the world as new technology. But in actuality,
Yeah.
it's old
It already
technology that our
existed.
ancestors knew about long ago. They just rediscovering it. Even Tesla.
Yeah.
Tesla is credited with starting wireless communications and all that stuff. All of that, even Tesla studied the technology of ancient Kemet. And he said that openly. He said, if you want to know the mysteries of the universe, he said, study frequency, study vibration, because
Yeah.
that is the language of the world. And our ancient ancestors understood this. Our ancient
You were
ancestors were way more spiritual than what we are.
more.
And when I
Yeah.
say spiritual, like I said, when you say spiritual, people think ghosts and angels and all of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. That's not what it is. Spirituality
Yes.
is that side of science that we can't see with the naked eye. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like when you look at the frequency at the light spectrum, right? There's only a
Yeah.
very small spectrum of light that we can see with the naked eye.
Yeah.
There's a very small
Yeah.
spectrum of sound that we can hear with the ears. But animals can see things that we can't see. Dogs can
Yeah.
hear things that we can't hear.
We can
So that
hear.
should tell
You're
you
right.
something. Our ancestors understood this, man, and they documented. And they were very metaphorical. Metaphorical. We're very metaphorical people, especially African
Yeah.
Americans. We're very metaphorical. And so
Yeah.
the ancient Kemetic people were the same way. So instead of speaking literally, they spoke in metaphors. And the reason they
Yeah.
did that is because they didn't want the knowledge to get into the wrong people's hands. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Even the
Yeah.
philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, they teach us in school that they were the ones that gave us all of these ideas and concepts. Every single
They
scholar,
learn.
every single philosopher from Greece, every one of them
Yeah.
studied in ancient Kemet for no less than 10
Yeah. For
years
years.
before they went back to Greece and claimed it as our own. So we have to learn our history. Once you learn your history, learn what your ancestors did, it sparks a flame inside of us. But we've been taught
Yeah.
that Africa is they don't have nothing. They still living in huts. And until we change that mentality, we're not going to grow. But it's happening,
Yeah.
and I'm being a part of it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I'm doing all I can to
Maybe.
awaken our people around the world.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
So yeah. So I think our conversation just sums up in one word: unity. As long
Yes,
as you have melanin,
yes,
your brother, your sister. We need to
yes,
support each other. We need to stop being
yes,
consumers and start being producers and all these
yes.
things. So
Right.
that's my conclusion. So if you have something you want to conclude, is you, then we can
Yes.
end the.
One thing I want to say is that we are one people. And in my book, I wrote a poem 20 years ago. I had never come to Africa, but I felt like I had already been here. I could feel it. And I wrote a poem in my book. And when I got here, it's exactly the way I envisioned it. And so when you
Wow.
come to Africa, man, you feel the essence that's present in all people in the United States and around the world. We one people. And even though we may speak different languages, we may have different cultures, we may dress different, but we one people. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can go to anywhere in the world. You can go to Jamaica. You can go to the Virgin Islands. You can go to the Bahamas. Anywhere there's a concentration of black people, all it takes is for us to be in the same presence of each other. Regardless of the differences in culture, you will realize that we connect.
Feel the
But
vibe.
but when you're around other white people, you don't have that same connection. It's because we operate on the same frequency. You
Yeah.
don't have to speak the same language, but I can, like when I come to Africa, or elderly women feel like my grandmother. I feel the same
Mhm.
energy that I felt when I was at home when my grandmother was alive. It's because we one people. And if we understand that and get back to the basics and unify, we unstoppable. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah.
So I want to end it on
Thank
that
you.
note. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Yeah.
said, don't take anyone's opinion for granted. Stop
All
believing,
research.
stop believing what you've been taught and do your
Yeah.
own research and find the truth
Mm-hmm.
for yourself.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the answer to everything. And once you find the
Yeah.
truth, it will change your whole world. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And it's sad
Yeah.
that most of us live our lives committed to Christianity or Islam. And then when you look back at them, you realize that their whole life was lived pretty much like a fairy tale because it's all
Yeah.
based on fallacy.
On
The
life.
purpose of life is growth and manifestation. The more you know,
Exactly.
the better your quality of life. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't do research, if you don't go to school, if you don't educate yourself, then you're going to continue to vibrate on a low frequency. The objective
Yeah.
is to vibrate on a higher, the higher frequency you vibrate on, because that's the whole purpose of it. When they say, when you,
Life.
in the Bible, they're talking about becoming one with the light. God is the light of the world. Light
Yeah.
travels at like 186,000 miles per second, right?
Yeah.
And if you can travel at the speed of light, there is no past, there is no
They're
future. You live in
unstoppable.
the present. That's the whole objective.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to a point where you one with light, you one with God, and that's the whole purpose. And you, nothing in the universe dies; it only changes form. So that
Yeah.
energy that's within our this shell that we call a body is our soul.
Mm-hmm.
That soul never
It
dies. It's been
never
here
dies.
since the beginning, and it just
And
keeps
it will
coming
be.
back, keeps coming back, keeps coming back until you get it. Living on Earth is just a way for you to learn and achieve higher
Yeah.
levels of consciousness. And when you achieve that level of consciousness, you don't come back no
You
more.
move.
You one with the Creator. That's the whole
You're right.
purpose, though. And this is what our
Yeah.
ancient ancestors taught us. We need to get back to that
Yeah.
and let go
Mm-hmm.
of this European created religion, because all of that was
Yeah.
created for capitalism. The Bible has a copyright,
To make
and
money.
anything that's copyrighted is about making money. How you gonna copyright the Bible?
No profit.
Come on, man. If they could bottle
Exactly.
oxygen, they put that in a bottle and sell it.
They
You know
could
what I'm
do
saying?
it.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're
I
very welcome.
appreciate your input. We'll
Anytime,
stay in touch. Yeah.
anytime, we'll do. You have a
Yeah.
great day.
Thank you.
All right,
You too. Bye.
all right.
Uh,